It is August 31st. We're getting a nice little rain. It's kind of nice not to have the summer heat bearing down on us. But this is our 1990 Suzuki Sidekick 24 Hours of Lemons project and where we're at. So we got this on July 13th, and this thing had been sitting in the field for at least a decade. It came with the salvage title. Shockingly, it has a title. But it's a 2003 salvage title. So this thing has seen a thing or two. 80,000 miles, but it's some hard mileage. The interior had been completely rotted out, which I didn't mind because we're ripping it out anyway. The seats were just disgusting. This thing came with more dirt daubers and spiders than I care for. It's like we're still knocking dirt dauber nests out of this thing. I mean, anytime we get to something new, there's a crusty old brown nest busting out of there. But we took the seats out, and of course the thing, it was a soft top that long since rotted away. The interior panels were gone. We took out everything, and I pulled out the dash, and we got it pretty well stripped down to where we need it to be. This is a little cleanup. You know, I need to pull out the rest of this rubber and stuff. But pretty much once we clean this up, we got some patching to do on the floor pan. But then beyond that, we got to get our seat mounted and then a roll cage put in, and that should be arriving within the next few weeks. I ordered it beginning of the month, and it was completed and waiting on a shipping notification. But that's the big fabrication that needs to happen in here. It's just seat and then roll cage, and you know, the fire system and stuff. There's some other things, but pretty much this isn't too far off. Shockingly, this isn't too far off where it needs to be. We just need a seat and roll cage and fire suppression. We've mainly been focusing on just the other bits of this thing, you know, brakes and the axles and wheel bearings, and we got those done. The front hubs are redone with new bearings. I went through these locking hubs and cleaned them up and packed them with fresh grease, you know, new rotors, new calipers and stuff. I could have rebuilt the other ones, but they were pretty crusty, and for what it costs to rebuild them, you can just buy new ones. It's not worth it. We're not touching these CV axles. I'm hoping they're just good. The boots seem okay. You know, nothing's cracked or anything, shockingly. So my fingers crossed on that. The shocks are probably done, but we'll find that out once we get this thing driving. This thing never came with power steering or air conditioning, which actually makes things real simple. You have there's the manual steering gearbox there. That's it. It's just you got your steering shaft straight to the gearbox. It goes down to, couldn't be simpler. This is the first gen EFI, so it's just got a single injector going into the throttle body. It's basically an electronic carburetor. Of course, the ECM was bad on this, so all the voltages were too low and nothing was running right, and I got it repaired. So I'm hoping once we get this buttoned up, it'll fire right up. You know, fingers crossed. Famous last words. We got the transmission in last night, and found out starting in '91, they made the mounts for the two top bolts deeper on the newer ones, so my bolts don't fit. So I went down to Home Depot and got some temporary ones. We'll see if they work. The other problem is they had a different bolt on the driver's side, and it's supposed to be an M12 1.25, and they put an M12 1.75, way too coarse of a thread pitch. I have no idea what I may have to use another 175 in there. It's just, we're gonna find out. So that could be a problem. It was in there tight. So, I mean, I don't know if they actually tapped it or if they just, cranked it in there and said, yep, that'll do. So we'll see. Radiator and stuff's out. That was just to make space to get to these bolts back here on the transmission bell housing. But I want to get that buttoned up and get the starter back in down here and get this alternator and whatnot back into place and the fan back in, and we can hopefully crank it and see it go. You know, with this repaired ECM, we got a new fuel system and stuff in. I put all new fuel tank and fuel pump and all that in pretty much from the beginning, thinking, because the guy told me it just needed a fuel pump. Well, it needed a whole lot more than that, you know, new tank and all that. So we're pumping clean fuel, but we just didn't have the voltages to run the pump at the right pressure, and the injector was way too low. So it just wasn't getting fuel to the cylinders like it should. In fact, when you'd crank it, it ran better when you disconnected the fuel pump, because it seemed to hit the right pressures, and it would actually kind of sputter a little bit with the fuel that was in there, versus if you're just trying to push more fuel in, it would never really start. But you know, if it just had some fuel in there, it would actually fire up and sputter for a little bit. Yeah, that's kind of been the main things. You know, there's a lot of learning, and you know, if we knew about these, you know, if I was an expert in this stuff, I could have got it done a lot faster. But unfortunately, these 1990s, they're a bit of a unicorn in that certain parts just were only for 89 and 90. You know, like the transmission. Here, I'll show you. I have the original. You swap the transmission. The transmission in there is a 96. This is the original. You can see the depth here. Let me focus. The depth here on this mount. The new one is about twice as deep. So our bolts just weren't long enough. Same position and everything. And heck, I even want to say that this stud down here was longer on the new one. We did a full transmission swap because the transfer case on this one is seized. The main transmission seems fine, but the transfer case is completely seized, and I found a guy that had one down at Corsicana, and you know, I was down there, and I was just like, how much for the whole thing? And the price he quoted me, I couldn't refuse. So it's like, this is going to be faster, and it's a hell of a deal. So we just did a full swap, and I did not realize those mounts were different. And most people do not even mention that. They talk about the spline count difference. So the rear output shaft on this 90 versus the 96 that's in there now has a different spline count. You need a different slip yoke. That I knew about. People talk about that, but these mounts, no one really mentions. It's kind of a pain in the ass. And it sucks to learn that at 9 o'clock at night when you think you've about done with something. And then you put this brace in at some point, you know, that supports the back end of the transmission. That bolts to each side of the frame, and the transmission kind of sits in there. Another thing is these rear drum brakes. That's another 1990 and 89 and 90 model year only situation. So these shoes and the springs and all that were only used 89 and 90. Starting in 91, they changed it, and I found that out because I accidentally ordered a 91 kit, and then you know, got it apart, started looking at it, like, none of this matches. What the heck is going on? Well, then I started reading. I was like, oh shoot. And then it turns out finding the spring kits is nearly impossible. In fact, I've only ever seen one, and I bought it. And I haven't seen one before or since. And this was a new old stock. This is from 1993. Allied Signal Bendix brake hardware. Is it gonna focus? Yeah, made in USA. 1993. It's back when we made parts for Japanese vehicles in the United States. But yeah, that's the only one I've ever seen, made in 1993. And thank goodness, because I had resigned myself to reusing the existing hardware because it's actually not in bad condition. But in the process of trying to get the other one on, I launched one of the springs somewhere into my shop. I don't know. Somewhere back over there is a spring, a very rare and valuable spring that hopefully I'll find one day. And the problem is the spring that I lost was actually one that only fits, it's directional, so it only goes on the passenger side. So I was like, yeah, I can't swap, man. That's it. So I was like, oh shoot, I better hope I can find one. And This kit popped up on eBay. I couldn't believe it. I bought it. I bought it as soon as I saw it. As soon as I verified that it was the right thing, I bought it. But that's kind of all the things we're coming up with on this 1990. It's unfortunately in 91 they changed a lot of little things, and it's become a pain in the butt. And with the transmission, these drum brakes, and who knows what else we're gonna find. Oh, well, speaking of which, the ECM, I had to repair that. So these early ECMs, interesting, there's a Mitsubishi logo on there. How about that? They're in this gold case. Well, turns out these are also model year specific. If yours came with a gold one, later ones don't work. So I can't swap in a 93. You think, oh, it's still a 1.6 liter. No, it doesn't work. These early models, once again, if it has a gold, the later ones were like gray, but these gold zinc plated ones, 89 and 90, they're unique. You got to have that ECM. And so thankfully I was able to repair it. It had some caps that busted and leaked. But man, that's been the biggest pain in the butt. It's just all these little things as, oh, it's a 1990. You need this specific part. Oh, nobody makes it. Hopefully, good luck. But I'm hoping with my Home Depot bolts, they'll at least hold it secure enough that I can get everything else buttoned up, and we can at least fire it up a little bit and see what happens. 'Cause I'm pretty confident, maybe too confident, but from what I've seen, when it was, you know, running the wrong voltage and had improper fueling, I think we're going to be in pretty good shape once this gets buttoned up again and it has proper voltages, and the ECM is running the injector correctly and all that. I think we're going to be in a good place. So with that, I'm going to get to it, and till next time.